Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I rank the best insert card designs for hockey in 1992-93. For inserts at the high end of the spectrum in 1992, it's a lot of fun because we were starting to see companies actually branch into a whole new area of inserts, well, card design, but especially with inserts, where it was a meteoric change between 1991's high end and 1992. And it gets even more fun in basketball and hockey because basically the high end of designs in the sports of baseball and football, that was like an experiment stage. They were coming up with some designs, they're playing around with them, but by the time they got to the end of the year, they were really honing their craft and kind of evolving into the next step of 1993. And so that means that for the high end, for both hockey and for basketball, we got to see some really well-developed designs, which just, they carry so well. So as I was going through, I was easily able to narrow it down to 7 cards that I wanted to talk about. I feel very comfortable about the top 5, and then 6 and 7 go right in there. So, well, let's kick it off. And so I'm kicking it off by talking about the Jeremy Roenick Ultra card set, the Performance Highlights cards. These cards, they did something very similar in basketball with Scottie Pippen. I think the Pippen cards look better, but it's a marble design around the outside because that's what Ultra was doing. And the blue is kind of the key to this card. It's both the strength and it's actually the weakness. The blue has a very distinct quality to how it looks, which really grabs your eye and pulls you in. It's very distinctive across in any environment. The only problem I have with it is that the particular hue of blue is a little bit disappointing. It's a little bit distracting. So it grabs me, pulls me in, and then it loses me. And that's where I have a problem with this card. I think it otherwise works great. I wish that they had done a cracked ice theme for hockey rather than the marble, which would have, for the other sports, using marble made perfect sense. But here, cracked ice would have been a much smarter move, and it would have made the color read a little bit better. Regardless, I think it looks good. It's just not quite at the level I'd like. And then there's also the Gordie Howe Selects set. And this is a card set that they did, basically they did something similar with Jerry West in basketball, so another repeat. The problem I have with this card is that when I started out, this was going to be really high on the list. But that was because the particular card I was going with just looks exquisite. I mean, all the cards look exquisite, don't get me wrong. So as I was going through, I just love the way that you got the signature, the little banner that's kind of floating down there. It just makes this card look magnificent with the right card. But the problem was, as I spent time going back over the cards, I realized that most of the cards don't read that well. When the image gets all busy, then all of that design element gets lost. And while they are good images, they are nice images, they don't hold on their own. This needs some design element that is always there, always present, and they just did a little bit too fine of a job with this design. So, in the case of the Selects cards, when they nail it, this is among the best inserts, period. When they don't nail it, unfortunately, it drops down real fast, and that's the problem that I have. So that's why I can't put it into the top 5. I would love to, it's just that it's not consistent enough. So let's go ahead and get into the top 5, and I'm very proud to say that at number 5 I have Pro Set with the Rookie Goal Leader set. This is a card set that it really shouldn't be on the list because Pro Set is a base brand, and when you're going up against Upper Deck and Ultra, who are both at their absolute height during this time, having a base brand make it in there, it's got to be pretty spectacular. And in this case, I'm not going to say it's spectacular as much as Pro Set was having a tough time growing out of the really miraculous football sets of 1990 and 91. That was no question their height. Now over in football with Power, they actually did a good job in 92 and 93 of transitioning into a different kind of card which just looked great, or 2 different kinds of cards. And that's basically what you're looking at here. This looks like it should be part of 1993 Pro Set Power. It's not, it's part of 1992-93 Pro Set, period. And that's where this card has its really great strength, is the fact that this is a base brand where they were hitting above their weight, and the card comes through great. It has a border which allows consistency from card to card, which you need. It's a strong, distinct border, and it has a great color accent on the inside, which works well with the player. It does everything that you want. And it has kind of a marble-like effect to it as well, which makes it look really kind of exquisite. So the way this card comes across, I look at it and I just go, okay, Pro Set's finally figuring it out. Now, they were also not figuring it out at the same time. This is kind of an anomaly, but this one card comes through, I think, in a way that just really holds up with all the rest of the cards on this list. So definitely kudos to them for that. For number 4, I'm going back to Ultra, and here I'm going with the Award Winners set. Unfortunately, this is the only Ultra card I can put onto this list because I love the marble theme that they have, the marble and gold foil theme that they went with for all of 1992. Great. All the cards look great. The problem is most of the cards for these busy sets don't really hold out with much distinction. They just don't carry across too well. You got to get the image to really carry the card, and that's actually exactly what the strength is of these cards. So as much as I'm not a huge fan of the horizontal border down at the bottom with the straightforward box, it's all about the image. And for this entire set, it's all about these stock shots of the players with their trophies in front of the NHL logo. And that is the thing that makes the card work so well, is that all of those images look very similar. So they work together as their own theme, and then all they need is an accent to distinguish this card from any other card that's made with the same stock shot. And the whole element down at the bottom is gorgeous. You got the marble, the blue marble. You got a nice little gold foil accent with a really good logo. You combine those together and it makes the card very distinctive, and the base, it's almost like a podium that the player is standing behind. It almost works right into the card, making the card look great. It's the fact that all the images have that consistency that make this read so well. So I love the way that it came across. Not quite spectacular, but really up there. So now as we go to number 3, we're going to be heading into Upper Deck for a while. And the first one that we're looking at is Calder Candidates. This is a card that is almost too bold, but not quite. They have a really good splash of gold foil up in the logo, up in the top corner that says Calder Candidates. And then you have the band that goes along underneath with a nice element up in that little corner, making the whole top of the card grab your attention, hook you in, and then it lets go. And that's what's great about it. It does all the things it needs to do to allow you to then go and pay attention to the image. And the images, now in some cases, it's kind of like the design elements are in the rafters and you're looking down, which is cool, but not all the images read that way. Others are just straightforward, but they all have the same effect, which is that normally you put all that stuff at the top, you put it down at the bottom as a base to really bring everything up. Here they did the opposite, so it's a roof over the top, and then it showcases the image in a whole nother way. So I think that they really nailed it in this regard, because when the card grabs you, pulls you in, has an elegant feel, and then allows you to really pay attention to the image underneath. And I mean really pay attention to the image. That's what I think that this card does so well, is that whenever I look at this card set, I'm always paying attention to the images. That's not always the case. In fact, that's not usually the case. Here, I think they got it. I wish there was a little bit more interest to the card because it is very simplistic, but that's all it needs to be. When I go to number 2, we have some similarities to this, which is the Gordie Howe Hockey Heroes set. And for the Upper Deck Heroes set, this is one of the gold standards. Before I go into talking about it, I'm going to talk about the other one that they had, which was for Wayne Gretzky. This is also one of the best Upper Deck Heroes sets. The design, it looks really nice, but it doesn't pull you in. If you're there to look at these cards, great. But if you're not there to look at the card's not going to grab you and it's not going to force your attention to the card. That's the thing. It's not going to stand out. I wish that it did, because really the Heroes cards really should. And some of the ones in the past that weren't as good of a design had much better ability to stand out in a crowd. This one doesn't, which is what leads me to the Gordie Howe card, which is that this card is truly a magnificent card. It has a nice black band up at the top, and then it has a wonderful gold foil banner with the player name. It's a good accent. It's not too big. It's not too overpowering. It has an elegance to it. And then you have the text up at the top, which has the color fade, bringing everything together to just look exquisite. And here's what makes it great. That image down below is a special image, specially chosen for this card because it's such a great image, except it's actually not a special image. This is just a regular run-of-the-mill image, but it looks so nice with all of this framing up at the top that makes you feel like every single one of these images is specially taken by Upper Tech for the occasion. That's what I find so amazing. Every time I look at these cards, it grabs my attention, it gets me excited, but it just elevates the images so well, and I'm fascinated by watching it. It is so rare that you see a classic image that looks this exquisite. So kudos to them for that, absolutely. But it's not number one, and that's because for me, number one is, again, Upper Deck, is the all rookie team cards. And this is a best of almost all worlds. It uses that really cool effect that they have of the 3 images of a player moving. I assume that this was from their early holograms that they did in 1990-91 for hockey, that they just took a couple of images from that and replicated them in cards where you get to see it in Joe Montana, you get to see it with Deion Sanders, you get to see it with Brett Hull. There are occasions where you get to see the Echo, and the Echo looks so cool. It really does look cool. In this case, they do it against a wonderful black backdrop where you see the lighting just disappear on the ice, and it gives a great formality to it, but you also have that cool strip on the side that is in silver foil, which makes the cards look really good. I would love to put the gold foil Pavel Bure card here, except that's an SP card, it's not part of the set. It looks even better, but I'm not doing SP cards, I'm only doing cards in sets of 4 cards or more. And so for this card, this fits perfectly into it, and I just love the way it comes across. This is basically a brilliant idea they started doing in 1991, and here they brought it to its penultimate state. This is the highest point that this whole theme can go with, and I think the cards just look fantastic. Better than any of the other inserts that I've seen for 1992 in hockey, and we will eventually see how it stacks up against the other 3 sports. So if you're following along with me, I am doing this first before any of the other 3 sports, so I still have basketball and football and baseball to do, and then of course the wrap-up of all 4 sports. So I'll be doing that in future videos. If you're curious, if you haven't seen the videos I've done before about the worst of, definitely check those out. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, and thank you very much for watching.